when they sit there and they look at their bank account and they're like, oh, I thought I had $800 left. I only have $347.36. You know, because
true story. My ex is a nightmare, you know,
right.
and I forgot what my bank account was at that point. And Google took out a bunch of money without my, you know how it is, right?
Yep.
Invisible money is scary.
It's like numbers control everything. Like, look at your daily life. Like, everything down to every dollar and penny you spend, to, you know, how many beers you really can drink. You know, numbers are everything. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? If you look at everything in life, it's all about quantity. But we have to figure out spiritually how to make it quantity.
But you know, quality can be overcome by quantity. For example, the Great Pyramid is a 40-story building. Even though the magnetism in that building is only a volt, if you want to figure it right, the sheer size of it overwhelms the quality. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
If you have a billion pieces of corn, you know, right? Well, then you could affect a quality the same way. You know what I mean? That I'm saying.
Yeah. I get it. But wasn't the pyramid supposed to be capped with a magnetic or glass? Was it gold? But it isn't gold a better? Imagine. Okay, so we use copper to transmit data, right? We use copper.
Yeah. Because
imagine if we use
here's this.
Right.
Let me say
but
this.
Imagine if we use gold.
Silver's number one. As far as conductivity, silver's number one, copper number two, and gold is number three. But gold keeps heat down better. So these metals have all these different atomic numbers. Bernie could talk about them more, but he's definitely on pitch. But you see what I'm saying? So they're all three pretty good, but copper is way cheaper than gold and silver, right? That's why. And copper is number two as far as electrical conductivity. Yeah. No, you were on the right path though. The pyramidal shape. So every object, let's take an egg or even a grain of sand, or our bodies, they have. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Your screen blanked out. So if any object, like an egg, it has this magnetic field around it. And so what a pyramid does, I think, well, I know for sure it does, but it does a bunch of other things too. But in addition to all the other things that you could say about pyramids, it definitely does this. If you bend, like you say, take copper wire, let's say a piece of straight copper wire, it has this magnetic field that looks like an egg around it. So if you do this and you bend it into either a pyramid or a cone shape, it amplifies, it moves the magnetic field where it's really strong, sort of like a convex mirror does, like Archimedes laser. Take a mirror and you aim it at the sun and it's like convex. It's gonna make the light beam into a laser. So a pyramid does the same thing with magnetic field, and it bends it, making it way stronger at one side and way weaker or stronger, however you want to look at it, the other side. So it basically amplifies the same way a laser does, right?
Right.
And that's really what the pyramidal shape does. And that's what one of my next videos was about how the ancient Egyptians studied biogeometry. And let me play this. I'm just going to play this for a bit. If you want to interject, I'm all about it. This could get us a copyright strike, so this video will be deleted for sure. I'm only doing this to prove that I can play this on the other
channels. We're live on my channel as well now, Frankie, but we're just on my smaller channel, not the larger one. But let's try it out and see.
Yeah, it's about Rosicrucianism in the Robert, the Dr. Robert Gillian videos. I've already done most of it. Okay, hang on one second. And Jared, even though this seems slow and we could edit out and make it look way more professional and faster to do this, especially since I've been having eye problems out the ass.
It's all good, man.
But it would be nicer to do this later where it like flows like butter, like I knew exactly what I was doing, you know?
No, man, you're good, dude. Whatever you want to do, Frank. Whatever you
Doing
want to do,
great,
bud.
Frankie, and that's why it's a trial stream, brother. You're doing good.
I'm doing the best I can, Bern. I'm definitely trying. Okay. Man, there's
What's
one
up,
with
Chris?
Dutch Sense I want to play on here, but it needs to be I need to find the exact right one. Okay, so I think it's this one. There's actually two from this exact same guy I want to play. And I think one of them will be good on the channel. Wait, sorry. I'm also kind of stony, sorry.
Don't be at all.
All right, I'm going to go for this.
Are you moving to another dynamic? You are moving from the physical to the subtle energy. Biogeometry in measuring the life force of the earth. It includes consciousness, of course. That makes the earth a living being in which we are part. We do not live on the earth, we live in the earth because we live inside the atmosphere of the earth, which is part of the earth itself. We are part of this living being, just as our immune cells or blood cells are part of our being. So when we act, we have to act according to the general laws of the being in which we are part, the language of nature. Imagine if you lived in a country that spoke a language and you did not speak the language of this country. You would be pretty useless because you wouldn't be able to communicate with others. We live in nature and there's a divine pen that keeps writing and drawing all those shapes in nature. It's a subtle energy message, subtle energy information being constantly drawn in front of us. And unfortunately, nobody cannot read. The only language we understand is the language between us and other humans. But that, while useful in a certain way, it's useless when it comes to the multidimensionality of life, because we are not part of nature. And if we are not part of nature, then sooner or later we will do harm to nature. Nature needs to be understood, and it is understood through the principles of its design language. What is different in this design language from other design languages that we use? It's a continuous evolution of are also in continuous evolution. It is like if you take a time-lapse photography, it will be like an organism that is growing into the environment. A city that grows in the nature have a certain energy quality. Like, for example, when animals build or earth and build the nest will replenish the life force of the earth. It acts as a sort of harmonizing second body to the bird itself, and so it is in nature. We have two aspects here: a living city or living homes or living communities where the homes themselves replenish the life force of those inhabitants in it. And the other side, we have human-made communities that also grow, but they sort of dissipate the life force. They take the life force out of the community in there. One is positively charging, the other is negatively depleting. There is something wrong in the way we're going about building our civilization, our cities, and all that. We are depleting ourselves of life force. Come extra things like our information technology based on electronics.
Okay, this dude's taking too long to get to the point, but the point is here he's making us. I'm going to play a better video that illustrates this better. Unless you guys want to keep listening to this.
No, man,
Um,
you're good.
yeah, there's a way better video than this, but this one's the one you
Frankie,
want to watch. This one's the one you want to
I'd
watch
say
if you want
that
to really
next
understand.
video just because people in the live chat are saying it's choppy and freezing up a little bit. So maybe just
Oh,
try
okay,
moving on to the next one and it'll be better.
okay, yeah, that's enough for the copyright strike test anyway. You know. Okay, that sounds good.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But to sum up what this dude did, he basically built
Oh, also
this
there's saying
pendulum.
the audio quality is horrible, Frankie. So what you might have to do is mute yourself when playing the video, and then it should
Yeah,
still do the sound and actually do a better video sound for it.
right.
Otherwise,
And
I think it
Jared, can
creates a.
you also mute your audio? Do you
Yeah.
see how to mute your audio? Okay, yeah. So it's better if you keep your audio muted the whole time, especially since Bernie's on a lag too. He's like a 3 or 4 hour lag behind
We
us.
keep ourselves muted, especially while videos are playing, and or just
Yeah,
if you're not talking while someone else is the best you
yeah.
can. But
That is the rule of thumb.
definitely don't keep yourself muted the whole time. Come on, Frankie. Jeez.
I know. Hang on.
We want to hear what Jared Bacon has to say.
You're right. Jared goes, you can speak.
And yes, please, everybody do that rain dance and pray for rain in Alberta. Oh my God, my province is half on fire and it's just insane. And but not going to get into that. Please do continue, good Frankie.
It's going to rain Saturday
You said it's going to rain Saturday.
in Alberta.
That's good.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Mm.
What the fuck is going on?
No.
Mute yourself.
Okay, give me 2 seconds.
I see it loading.
Sorry, guys, it's gonna take a second. Having technical difficulties.
Is used by us today in modern Egyptian biogeometry to be able to test vibrational qualities for any person, place, or thing to a very, very deep level. Here's one of the great secrets of ancient Egypt and other old traditions, connected to the Shakti concept of the Himalayan tradition.
Oh, maybe you have to be
carrier
unmuted
wave
for the sound
stands
to go through it. Apparently the video's now muted. I'm not sure.
If my phone dies, don't be mad.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. It said it sounded pretty good. If you so do keep yourself muted, Frankie, and the audio was going through, and apparently it sounds good on the video.
Their energies. It was found by the French it could penetrate thicknesses of lead that could not be penetrated by X-rays. And so they were fascinated by it. And so in applying the negative green carrier wave energy, it is what inside the physical body actually moves the energy from one location to another, makes the organs work. And it also sends things from one system to another system. It is what conducts the energy in the energy meridians of the body, like the acupuncture meridians from the Chinese tradition. It is the foundation of sexual energy and vitality in the body. At the emotional and mental level, it breaks down resistance, opening up the blocked psychological aspects of a person to open to massive shifts in one's life and bring subconscious blockages into awareness. At the spiritual level, it actually conducts the energy from higher plane levels into the human physical body. And blessing, prayer, meditation, etc., the stronger this vibration is from their energetic field. All modern technology is based on cracking two codes, the code of the spectrum of electromagnetic energy and the code of the spectrum of physical matter. We call the spectrum of physical matter the periodic table of elements, based on the work of Mendeleev in the late 1800s in Russia. Now, once we cracked the code where we identified every aspect of electromagnetic energy and every part of physical substance in the world, at that point, they could put the two together. So all of our modern technology is based on what exact elements from the periodic table to match with what frequencies from the electromagnetic spectrum. And that's what makes your cell phone work. That's what makes the lights work at your house. What makes your car run. Everything is based on a combination of these two things. But as we often describe in the work of biogeometry, what they left out was the focus of every classical tradition, because it's only been the last couple of hundred years that modern science and medicine has only focused on the physical plane. Before that, every classical tradition focused on the level of vital life force and higher consciousness above the physical, and they manipulated those energies to be able to do things on the physical plane. They actually worked at the causative level above the physical that actually gives rise to the physical level itself. Today, we manipulate the physical directly, the physical and the electromagnetic. There's often a confusion about vital life force being electromagnetic energy, and I don't believe that's actually the case. I think the best solution to this was given by the great Rosicrucian teacher Rudolf Steiner, where he described the way that the vital life force, which is the foundation of every classical scientific and healing system, is at a level above the physical. And that is like what was referred to as scalar waves by Nikola Tesla. And these higher energies from the vibrational level, referred to as the etheric in the Greek tradition, referred to as qi in the Chinese tradition, ki in Japan, prana in India, etc. Every tradition had a name for it. That energy penetrates down into the physical and the human physical body without this is a corpse. It animates physical sense, but in so slows down the lowest of light and begins to disintegrate. As it disintegrates, it gets to be retarded Hertzian waves as described by Tesla and becomes the electromagnetic spectrum. So the problem is that we've created a new technology that's very powerful for manipulating physical structures, but does not take into account what the effect of the vibrations from these are on actual living beings, because the actual living aspect of biological life has been stripped out of modern biology. You're not allowed to describe it. If you try to talk about life force in modern biology, they will say that you are a victim of the vitalist fallacy, and they will have nothing to do with you.
Please don't
So
copyright
the
strike.
knowledge of thousands of years of observations and particular techniques in Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Mayan healing, all types of traditions all over the world have been completely cast out. But now, with having identified in modern times the electromagnetic and physical spectrums, the French succeeded in identifying the vibrational spectrum, the level connected to the vital life force itself. And that became a foundation for the creation of modern biogeometry. Now, some of this was connected to the knowledge in ancient Egypt, but it's in a new form. Dr. Ibrahim Karim demonstrated that through applying a simple geometric form to biological life, he could change the life functions in a biological system. Very simple geometric forms. And one of the big discoveries of Dr. Karim is that one thing he identified is that the French vibrational spectrum of the 12 bands, each of these bands has a very particular power. And that power is a polarized power. Some are more yin, some are more yang. Some are more activating, some are more sedating. But he said there's another power, and that is the power that is beyond polarity. That is the power of the original singularity, of the original center, the energy of the unified source of all creation that is beyond polarity, where everything is one. And so then he began to apply these vibrational methods that the French had pioneered in modern times based on their inspiration from ancient Egypt. And he then found a way to be able to identify the vibrational characteristic of that energy of the center, of that original unified source, the energy that harmonizes and balances all living energy systems, not through applying an opposite polarity for polarity balancing the center itself. And he found that one of the hallmarks of that vibrational meter is a gold vibration. And the classical tradition considers this vibration to be the source of physical gold. Physical gold, as everything in the physical plane, is a crystallization into physical matter of a subtle vibration from a higher level. And so all of these references and different traditions, the Taoists, the Christians, the ancient Egyptians talking about the gold was not a metaphor, it's quite literal. So when a person does advanced spiritual work, the saints develop the golden aura around their head and their body because they're in resonance with the original unified source. And so Dr. Karim took his work further and was able to identify some of the secrets of ancient Egypt through this vibrational science that he developed and called geometry. One of the aspects of this is that different geometric forms based on the shape-caused wave create different energetic effects. But there's a deeper level behind that, and that is different geometric forms actually resonate with different levels of creation, or what Dr. Karim calls planes of nature. So this is a form that we use in advanced level of biogeometry, the Ibrahim Karim universal pendulum, and it actually combines shapes of multiple different plane levels: the physical, the emotional, astral, the mental, the causal, the spiritual, and the divine levels. All particular geometries that resonate with them. This means that by using the correct geometric form, the ancient Egyptians understood they could create a direct resonant exchange, like an antenna, based on geometry. Sacred geometry became an antenna to resonate with a particular higher plane. So for example, if we take a look at this level, what in the human being is the emotional body and emotional function, and referred to as an outer plane in the Western tradition as the astral plane. Astral coming from a root aster, meaning star, meaning a source of light. And the forms that connect to that are the form of a hemisphere or a pyramid. So when they use the form of a pyramid, it wasn't just for pyramid powers and energy, but what pyramid power actually is the negative green ray that was identified by the French, the penetrating carrier ray. That comes from this particular form. Both a hemisphere and a pyramid create that negative green emanation. But the reason why that form is creating the emanation is because the shape itself acts like an antenna for the astral plane. And that's why they knew further that by modifying the shape on the pyramid, by making a slight indentation in the center of the four faces of the pyramid, it's so slight you can't see it from the ground. You have to see it from the air. And from the air, you can see here the slight indentation at the bases of the major pyramids at Giza Plateau. What that did is it changed the resonance of the pyramid from the general astral plane, where the lower astral has some questionable energetics, to resonate with the higher astral. And when you do that, it cleans up the energy that's being projected by the pyramid. So one of the great secrets is the geometries act like antennas to resonate with higher planes of creation. And then as a secondary effect, they will emanate through the shape-caused wave a particular vibration that is the result of that particular connection. And they knew enough about it, in fact, to work not just with the general negative green ray, as we see here, but actually to work with sub-bands or sub-energies inside the general band. So the placement of the king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid is not in the exact middle where you might expect it to be. It's not in the middle. It's about 6 degrees, 15 minutes off of center. And so that's to get a particular carrier wave within the negative green band. That's a sweet spot in the entire band, a sweet spot for being able to connect a person through a carrier wave to higher dimensional levels, which is why that place in the king's chamber was used for these initiation rituals, as described by the Freemasons and others. And now let's talk a little bit about exactly how it works. So this is the vertical and horizontal wave pendulums. For each of the bands, the energy may either propagate parallel to the Earth's surface, we call it a horizontal wave, or it can move perpendicular, and we call that a vertical wave. They create different biological effects. And so we have two different pendulums to be able to detect it, and they're fairly simple to use. And this not only can be used for design purposes, to design things that have this strong vibration to them, it also can be used to test things that naturally have this energy. So what makes a spiritual power spot in nature is that it has a strong concentration of this universal harmonizing force, the BG3. Every classical tradition is the guardian of particular places on the Earth's surface that are their spiritual power spots. And how you can tell a true power spot from a false one that's been falsely claimed to be one, is that it has a strong concentration of this BG3 vibration if it's a true power spot. In the microcosm of a human body, those power spots appear as the chakras, acupuncture points, cells of the body, all of which naturally have this BG3 energy as well. And this connects to all types of energetic functions, and we primarily focus on it for healing work, but what it's actually doing is it's restoring a natural balance and resonance. The reason that we have this.
The guy that's speaking right now is Dr. Robert Gilbert. You should definitely look him up. He's amazing. He has a bunch of videos. Just saying.
Feeling of dis-ease is because we're no longer in resonance with the higher source that is supposed to be supporting the functions of the body. That's way beyond the consciousness of most people, but every classical tradition was aware of it and they had to restore that connection. So in the ancient Egyptian mysteries, they understood about the importance, let's say, of the heart. And so there are particular biosignatures for the heart that not only have an effect at a more gross physical vitality level, it also has effects on human consciousness. For example, the place of the sinoatrial node or the sinus node, the master pacemaker of the body, is actually the place understood by the ancient Egyptians and by Sufi traditions today as the place that higher vibrational forces resonate in the human physical body and restore our connection to higher sources. Years ago, I had a very serious car accident, serious damage to my neck and my spine, had a hard time just being able to move around. And through the use of the correct bionumeral alteration of a biosignature, it gave me back my quality of life. And when you change the numerical sequencing of the patterns, then actually changes the level that the pattern is vibrating with. Now, for practical work, one of the major things that we teach people is harmonizing electromagnetic fields. Dr. Karim actually demonstrated that he could harmonize the electromagnetic fields in entire small cities in a project in Switzerland in 2003. And we have various types of tools that we can use to create energetic effects. This biogeometry cube, well, the cube creates a strong concentration of this BG3 harmonizing force in an environment. The Hamburg emitter was used in the Swiss project. This allows us actually to set this up.
Loving these videos, by the way, Frankie.
Electromagnetic disturbance, cell towers, things of that kind, and to actually transmute it from the distant source. Within a location itself, things like the space harmonizer will help to create.
Sorry, Bernie, what do you say?
Oh, I was just saying, I absolutely love the videos that you picked and the presentations. Absolutely great, great information. So, yeah, I can continue with this one too. It's really, really good. I'm loving it, man.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
there's another one just like it, even better.
I think we can use it.
Yeah, the dude, what happened is they built a gnarly military satellite in Switzerland, and he literally made this Isis's
Space
pendulum thing.
harmonies.
This thing. Let me do I have it here. Yeah, he basically made Isis's pendulum. He aimed it at the satellite, and it canceled out all the sicknesses to that whole village. That's the first video I've presented. But yeah, this one's good, right? Yeah.
Oh
This is
yeah,
going to be good for recording later, I
epic.
suspect.
They're all epic. They've all been key, and I absolutely love, as Sean, shout out Terran Earthling, dubbed it, your tinfoil Calgary hat. Epic, my friend,
Yeah.
epic.
I only just realized that your channel is live.
But please do continue with the space harmonizer here and this.
I don't have permission to play this though.
And even more.
Yeah, I don't have permission to play this though. I don't think that they're. I think they're
We're
going to
only
be
live on
like-minded
my
like
smaller
that.
channel, and we're testing it out, and all you can do is try it, share it, and see what happens. So I'm glad we are, because it's content that's worth sharing, regardless if it gets a strike or not.
Yeah, exactly. At least everyone saw it, right? It's a fucking good ass video, right? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna keep playing it.
A balanced energy within the location. The outdoor stand is used in the earth itself to balance and harmonize the energies in the earth. Now, one of the really fascinating things is the concept of balancing brain hemispheres. One aspect of it has to do with the basic concept of a toroidal flow of energy. Now, one of the things that I learned over 30 years ago, based on my work in the U.S. Marine Corps as a nuclear biological chemical warfare specialist, that then led to my studying geometric forms in biology, chemistry, and physics, and then into the work of finding the same patterns in classical traditions for healing and spiritual development, is that whenever you start working in a body of work and people start talking about a torus structure and they start talking about vortex patterns, you should pay attention, because these are core energetic patterns that all creation are based on. So if you get a sphere, open it up top and the bottom and get energy to move through the center. Now the center of the sphere that connects to the original unified source and the periphery of the sphere that connects to the entire vibrational spectrum are constantly circulating together. Connect to the unified source going through the channel, go out to the created world on the perimeter, and now you've got a sphere that has a perfect energy circulation. That is the form of the energy field around a human body. It's the form of an energy field around phenomena from the microscopic up to the galactic. This is a very important energy circulation pattern. And the exact center of that is the channel through the center of the sphere that's in the form of a hyperbola. Hyperbola is kind of like an hourglass. And so there is a particular creation pattern that you see Dr. Karim has put into form here, where it's two hyperbola. And in the human energy field, this actually operates as one that goes through the central axis of the body. And that's what he refers to as the spiritual axis. And then there's a time-space axis that runs more on the horizontal axis through the body. Again, this gets involved, and I can't go through the whole thing right now. Just want to give you a basic idea. And so a bulge appears on one of these because when the independent being begins to perceive within space-time, it creates an expansion from the center outward, and it creates the bulge you see here. Now, what this leads to then is that Dr. Karim found that there was a resonance when he broke the two forms apart to be two pillars. Sometimes he refers to them as the pillars of wisdom. This one here, without the bulge, without the space-time perception, resonates very strongly with the right brain hemisphere and the intuitive perception of a human being. The one with the space-time perception that grounds things into physical reality has the bulge coming out from the center from space-time perception. That's connected to the rational faculties of the left brain. Dr. Karim then added our biogeometry dials to the top that allows us to tune in different vibratory powers. So what you can do with this is you can actually tune any person's brain hemispheres to specific vibratory states. So one of the things that we demonstrate is that if you activate the person's visual cortex in their brain in properly tuning it in with this tool, what you can then do is from the visual cortex, you can fill it with the BG3 unified source vibration, and anything the person looks at will immediately harmonize with BG3 energy. They will become a harmonizing force straight through the visual ray coming out of the eyes. This is going into then practical things that they would do in the Egyptian temples with modern techniques. Now, these Earth energy grids are themselves connected to the whole vibrating matrix of the Earth. And so one of the major things that Dr. Kareem went into at this conference that got super deep is this concept then of what we described before about the toroidal energy structures of space-time that we use in the advanced training for tuning the human brain hemispheres. He connected that up with the vibrating matrix of all of the energy grids on the Earth. And then looking at how that manifests once again as the space-time wormhole, which we have here, and then the mental spiritual wormhole here in the central axis of the torus around the human energy field. And then he began to go into very deep levels about how human beings are anchored into space-time through entire structures of these toroidal fields, back and front vortices in hyperbolas in the inside of the torus, and that is the foundation of all of the chakras of the human body. With then, just like in cosmological structures, you have the hyperbola, you have the vortex coming from two different directions, like at the chakras, and in between it, you get the spinning disk of BG3 energy, just like you see in cosmological structures. Is this applicable to one life cycle or several lives? This is an entire pattern of the vibrational template for a person's incarnation to root them into space-time. He then took that further and talked about the way that we materialize things from the higher planes into physical space-time through structures of this kind, which then are replicated microcosmically inside the human body. And so, again, there's expansion and collapse with the BG3 field in the central disk. This becomes an entire cosmological structure and also leads to the concept of the gates. So when they describe in the ancient Egyptian tradition about the multiple gates you pass through in the Duat, or the underworld, in the higher dimensional worlds, this gates exist within the center of the toroidal movement, because the entire structure of movements in space-time and outside of space-time from one dimension to another are all based on the same template. Whether it's in your energy field or in great dimensional structures, it's the same pattern replicated at higher and higher levels and higher scales. It's what in sacred geometry we call scale invariance. And so this means then that our brain structure and our ability to perceive higher spiritual realities and things of that kind are a resonance between the structures that affect our brain hemispheres and the same structure at a higher level of construction elsewhere in space-time in the movement through these dimensional gates. And so that's the concept in the ancient traditions, including very much in ancient Egypt, of initiation, of being able to travel through the gates. If you read the ancient Egyptian text that we have translated in modern times with the name that it did not have in ancient Egypt, which is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, its name in the original Egyptian is closer to the Book of Coming Forth into Light. That particular text talks about passing through all these gates in the afterlife that lead to all of these different attainments and different experiences. And this was then connected to what we often hear about today with near-death experiences of traveling through the tunnel. The tunnel is the interior of the torus. It's that internal movement. And there's an initiation bridge. Death is the walk across the bridge in the movement between the right brain perception and the left brain perception. The human mind and the structure of the brain is itself a microcosm of a higher dimensional structure that is the essence of initiation. And then when you get to the center, the crossing point in the human brain, that becomes the corpus callosum. And the way that we interact in the center point with BG3 harmonizing energy in the center, the effects of the two hemispheres. And every human existence, physical existence, is like a snowflake that then anchors with the left brain perception into space-time on top of a primordial ocean of energy. This has to do with the pulse of time in the human body. So your heart is connected to a higher source that creates the pulse of the heart. So the breathing of the lungs and the pulse of the heart are in a particular rhythm that's entrained as something at a higher level. Once that gets off that rhythm, all types of health problems are created. The balance of the time pulse in the heart pacemaker is connected to the weighing of the heart in the Hall of Judgment in ancient Egypt. That means that there is a master balancing method based on restoring the correct pulsation of time within the human body that connects to the lungs and the heart, but is also beyond the lungs and the heart. Simply creating correctly the sound of these things, the sound was the vibration itself. So that pronouncing correctly the name of this particular netter, ma'ed, when you pronounce correctly the ma'ed sound, it actually has the effect of harmonizing the time pulse inside the person's energy field. Harmonizing the time pulse can put them into resonance with higher forces. So this is a core part of uniting the different parts of the ancient Egyptian temple science.
Next video, Mr. Frankie.
I know. Give me just a sec here. We're almost to it. Good. I was tuned out for a second. All right.
That's okay. It's allowed. It happens. You know,
Yeah,
just so
not
deep
used
in it because
I'm not
it was
professional you.
it was just that deep of thinking that, you know, it takes a minute to come back because
Yeah,
it's deep
it's
thoughts.
that was a pretty good video, right? Oh, let me play this one. Okay, Jared was talking about this. He's talking about how he's making a geopolymer pyramid. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna play this one, even though I already played this one. So this one has
Glad you
already.
brought that up. And glad Jared's working on such things, as I was thinking earlier today about making exactly that, geopolymer pyramids, but connecting in the resin orgone technology, incorporating it into those geopolymer pyramids, as well as, of course, incorporating and using some of the monatomic gold and stuff too in it.
Yeah.
So let's
What do you
definitely
think?
do this.
What
Great
if you make granite?
synchronicities tonight, Frankie.
Yeah, Bernie,
Well done.
I literally have pulverized granite. I literally have made. It's so hard, dude. It might as well
Hold
be
on,
like.
hold that up to the camera so we can all see. Let's see. Come on.
Right? Oh man. Geez, sorry.
Oh, then,
Blowing it. Sorry, I'm blowing. We can edit that out later.
That's
Actually.
oh, good.
Yeah. So there's more. There's one more video I should do just to.
Oh,
to
okay.
make
Do
sure
the
I cover back.
geopolymer. Please do the geopolymer pyramid one first, though.
I don't have that video. I was just talking.
Oh, you don't have it up. Okay, no worries. Then yeah, definitely play the one you do have lined up.
Okay, give me a sec here. There's only one more. And this also could be a copyright strike. That's why I'm doing this. So, but probably, okay, it's very similar. It's the same dude, Dr. Robert Gilliam. He's the man for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna play that one real quick. And there's so much I want to talk about, but I feel like it's better just to do this and get it done. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Magnetic radiation in the air, waves move like that.
No, wait. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Give me a sec. Oh, no. That's all the ones I have. I was now going to do your.
That's fine. You can play one of my videos if you were planning on playing it anyways.
Yeah, and there's so many of your videos that are good. I don't even know which one to play. Those are the ones that I wanted to, and I did a whole nother 4 videos last night about flying spiders. Have you seen that one? I could just play my own video, right? From last night. There are 4 videos, including Jay from Plasma Channel. He basically is putting a water hose around. Basically, test the world. Let me play that one real quick. It's pretty epic. Hang on. And he already didn't give us a strike. So, you know, sorry, Barney, give me 2 seconds. It's worth it. He points out how you can distill water and use it as a resistor, or you can actually use just water with salt in it as a copper wire, and it works way better than copper wire. He literally is
Oh
using
yeah.
Tesla stuff and running hoses to it. This is definitely gonna be worth watching. Give me a second here, though. It's the last video on Plasma Channel, so I'll look this up.
Yeah, he does absolutely great work. Been learning from him for a decade now.
Me too. And I want to do the Styropyro guy on here, even though he is anti-free energy, just like the other dude. They still are into it though. They're going to be all about being on our channel, and they will not give us a copyright strike. I bet you anything Styropyro and what the dude I'm talking about? He's
Oh, yeah.
Indian dude in Canada, right? What is his name? Indian dude in Canada.
Electro Boom, hopefully not.
Yes, Electro Boom. That guy's the man too. And I don't care if free energy is impossible.
He's smart. I don't like him. Jay from the Plasma Channel, man.
Right. Okay. Give me 2 seconds here. I could just go onto my own channel and do this too, because I just played it last night and recorded all of it. But, this is going to be it. And it's water power. He's showing just how you can just make a capacitor out of water. It's unbelievable. It's very, very good. It's going to be on his. Sorry. We can definitely edit this and make it shorter later. It's pretty enlightening. So my theory has been that the pyramid is filled with a tunnel that's a coil, and you fill it with salt water, because during a lightning storm you don't want a giant 40-story Tesla coil. It's going to be the scariest thing ever.
Unless you're on top of a mountain and that's what you're going for. But yes, definitely do play this video, as looking forward to it. And the water is a key part of all of cold fusion energy and matter and life.
If let's say you were using salt water in a tunnel as the Tesla coil. Well, when a lightning storm comes, you can just dump the water out and it no longer even exists, right? So that way you could turn it on and off by filling it with water. Sorry, I'm taking so long. I can't believe this is so hard. I'm just going to start over. It's harder for me because I can't see very well. I'm having eye surgery again in 2 days, so this is harder for me than you think. But I can do it. I'm just gonna. Man, when you go through your history, it's like you look like such a weirdo. I've been going through everyone's channel. What you gotta do really is type in plasma channel water power. That's what I'm gonna do. He literally makes a March generator out of just water hoses.
When it comes to water use in our society,
Perfect. Okay. Perfect.
we pretty much use it for two things, cleaning and consumption. But I think we're completely overlooking another use that's entirely different. Hey, it's Jay, this is Plasma Channel. Now, although rather poorly, water conducts electricity. This is not new news. But unlike copper wire, it can flow, it can crash, it can change shape altogether, and it can be moved and removed entirely using nothing but valves. Think about that for a second. So I pose the question, is it plausible that we can use water as a controlled medium to transfer electrical power? More specifically, to transmit wireless power, a bit like Wi-Fi, to nearby devices. I know, totally mental, and it sounds like I've been huffing just a little bit too much ozone off the big Genesis over there, but this video truly is just an exploration into that possibility. Here's why that's not actually crazy. Shooting my last video on ozone sterilization, I noticed something wicked cool. You see, this device utilizes a water-filled plate attached to high voltage to capacitively couple energy to nearby objects. That's why you see the purple streaks and this purple corona next to my skin. It's pretty cool. Now, when I brought any light sources near the plate, they lit up. Light bulbs, fluorescent tubes, neon lights, the gamut. So in essence, the sheet of water acted as a wireless power transmitter itself. Pretty crazy stuff. Seeing them light up essentially showed that the idea of spreading wireless power using water may not be that crazy after all. And considering water takes on any shape that you want it to, you might as well put it into a pipe and treat that pipe like a wire. You see where I'm going? So today I've got a couple lengths of acrylic tubing that I'm going to go ahead and cut up, do some work on, and here's the plan. I've gone ahead and built a simple water distribution system using a reservoir, acrylic pipes, and plastic valves. The reservoir is attached electrically to a high voltage, high frequency power source, and there are various light bulbs near the distal ends. Notice they're not attached. I plan to test this system to see if water can be used to distribute electrical power in controlled locations, whether it be through wireless power or direct connection. I added copper end caps to allow for that direct connection. Now there's two separate valves to control each of the two halves. The left side will have two lights, and the right side will be a bit further away with one single light. My ultimate goal is to be able to turn on and off each set of lights individually using those valves. Before we go any further, a quick note about safety. You like living, right? Me too. That means we have something in common, so let's leave the combining of water and high voltage to the professional idiots like this guy. Don't do this at home. Right, with the power source attached and opening the left valve, we've got light. Not sure why it flickers though, but closing the valve, it mostly turns off. On, off, on, off. And leaving the valve open but varying the power instead, both lights can be wirelessly dimmed. Opening the valve on the right side, and we've got light from the fluorescent tube. Looks like it's a bit too close. Closing the valve, no light. Light, no light. Notice these lights in the background, they remained on because their separate valve is still open. Now with both valves open, all the lights can be wirelessly dimmed at the same time. Pretty cool. Like before, this is through varying the power. But direct connection provides the most power, so this light bulb is directly attached to the copper end cap, and you can see just how hot those arcs are. When I touch it, the lights dim because most of the energy leaks out of the system, goes through my fingers and into ground. All right, so it works. You just saw a wireless power distribution system using nothing but water, pipes, and valves. I think that's really, really cool. Now, one of the things that really surprises me is just how effective this wireless power is at a distance. Check this out. Sitting on the table about a foot away is a larger fluorescent tube. You can see just how much bigger this one is. Well, up close, it's super bright, but it still lights up about 6, 7, 8 feet away. I honestly was a bit shocked because I didn't expect it to go out that far. I expected a couple of feet. I can't emphasize enough how cool this is in person, and it should be obvious by now that this system, it has some potential. But you might be asking, okay, well, what's the physics behind this? How is this wireless power transfer happening? Well, those of you who have followed my channel for a while might be familiar with the term capacitive coupling. Look, you'd have to be a soulless Susie to not find this interesting, so check this out. this plasma globe is turned off, yet it's still lit, still functioning. How is that? Because capacitive coupling is the transfer of AC electricity between two physically unconnected circuits, primarily due to induced currents. The high voltage AC in the water is inducing a current in the plasma globe. But this type of energy transfer degrades with distance pretty quickly though, and its strength at any given distance can be predicted using the inverse square law. Wicked cool, right? That's the science behind how the system transfers energy to nearby devices. And because of the piping system, the wireless power can be directed. Now, keeping in mind this is a fully hypothetical system, here's a couple of uses I do see this being applicable for. Selective wireless power. Whether in a large room or individual spots throughout a park, turning a handle would allow localized wireless charging. Functional Zen. Imagine an outdoor cafe that has an aqueduct of water running right through the middle of it, and the water radiates wireless power to all the tables. I'd call it Capacitance Cafe, and all the customers would be nerds. Being realistic, this system has tons of flaws, to include dangerous voltages and exploding water pipes, so yeah, it's really just a novelty. However, since nobody has used plastic valves and acrylic pipes to transfer wireless power before, this is a new method, so I dub it Bowles transmission. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video and it got some gears turning. I'd love to know your thoughts on the whole project, so leave a comment down below. In particular, I want to know your thoughts on why you think those two fluorescent tubes on the left-hand side stayed slightly lit despite turning the valve off. I know the answer, but I want to hear your thoughts. Also, thank you to everybody who chooses to support my work through Patreon. You make a huge difference. So if you'd like to encourage longer, more frequent uploads, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks a bunch. Plasma Channel out. Thanks for stopping by, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to Plasma Channel. Check us out on other social media, and feel free to check out our various other episodes. With science every 2 weeks, you stay classy.
And by the way, Bernie, can you hear me? Bernie, can you hear me? I think it's just us. I think we were in the broadcast, but I think it was worthy. Oh, maybe I should leave it up for a minute. We are still live. I'm going to play another video.
Oh, hold on. I'm back. Sorry, I was just outside. Great, poor Frankie abandoned Bernie, the space cadet, out in the circus tent of some alchemy. So before you play your next video here, I'll just join in from my cell phone outside quickly to show some demonstrations briefly that we'll be going over in my alchemy episode coming up next with Jeremiah, join the technicians, and Taryn Earthling, Sean, both in the live chat. And if you want to join us, Frankie, by all means, more than. And shout out Bear, Brain Bear Comedy. Great
I would love to join you, but I can only do it for a short time. I'm going to play one more video. This is directed at Gerald. You know Gerald?
Okay, yeah, play your video. I'll get it set up. WPG Enlightened for Truth 2 channel.
Yeah, his is hard. He's talking about geopolymer pyramids, and I'm going to play a video I really want him to see. I'm going to play that right now, okay?
Yes, please.
It's going to take me about a minute and a half.
Designed it, they used the back pressure to change the pulse rate and the frequency and the amplitude to tune it for.
Bernie, can you hear me? Bernie, can you hear me? It could be that this broadcast got...
John has created a scale model replica of the subterranean chamber pulse generator under the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is an incredibly important discovery to understand because it can be the first proof of concept regarding ancient technology. This discovery may give us great insight into the ways of the ancient past. What would something like this have been used for? How did and why did they create something like this? The questions may be endless. Hopefully, we have not lost touch too much to understand the importance of this discovery.
Saw this book on the shelf, 5/5/2000, in the alternate history sort of area. I checked it out. I was just looking at the pictures and the drawings, and I came across Edward Kunkel's pictures, and he had said it was used as some sort of pump. And so I reproduced that same model back in June of 1999. April 3rd, 2000, first try it ran. Pushed the valve in once and it started running. Immediately what happened, the whole 500-pound block of cement and rock and rebar was pulsing, like bum, 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 bum. And the first thing that came to mind was exactly what Chris Dunn had written, that there was a pulse that was emanating from that room, but he knew the mechanism was in there. Immediately I knew, oh my God, Chris, you're right. I added a model with a glass top and a glass side. I used little ink jets, but I had little nozzles and valves on the side of it so I could determine all the fluid dynamics within the room. And I was absolutely shocked to find that it was a vortex in there. It was an extremely complex vortex. It had a heartbeat pulse at the time. And if you set it up a certain way, it actually does a pulse of a heart. It doesn't do a consistent, like 1 second per se. 1 second pulse is bump, bump, bump. It was actually doing strong and a short beat, bump, 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 bump. Whatever it is, whoever designed this, that's what they wanted. And Chris was saying, I had just come up with the name of a book, and it had to do with the Great Pyramid, the heartbeat of a civilization.
I think the evidence is fairly clear that, particularly in Egypt, and if you consider the system that they built at Giza, the pyramids at Giza, the Great Pyramid specifically, that they had developed an energy system that was harmonious. It was not only drawing energy from the earth, but it was harmonizing the plates and harmonizing the earth and probably transmitting those frequencies throughout the planet. It's now become knowledge that these standing stones, like at Stonehenge or Karnak, that they actually do emit particular frequencies.
In Washington, John Cadman gave us a tour of his scale model pyramid pulse generator. This device works completely off a gravity feed, and no power is required. The implications of this technology are great, including energy and agricultural benefits.
If it was the Great Pyramid, this would be the moat around it. That'd be the water level of the moat, is this kind of a static water level. And then there's just a enticing piece from that. Just down through here. So it just drops straight down in here. And then it's got the little room inside the cement casing. So it's pumping water right now over to the far side of the house, so about 400 feet away, and elevating it from here. And so this would be, in the Great Pyramid, this would be the dead end shaft here. This shaft here, and this would be the shaft here. It would go down to the Nile, which would just have a very simple valve in it. And so if you shut this, it changes the pressure, and it'll change this rate and the intensity. Immediately. Whoever designed it, they used the back pressure to change the pulse rate and the frequency and the amplitude to tune it for the pyramid itself. For the variations is the atmospheric pressure plus the temperature of the water, because the temperature of the water changes the viscosity of the water, and that changes the speed of the sound wave traveling through the water. So you have to have a simple way to tune it, and all you have to do is be slightly close the valve or open the valve. And you can tune the whole frequency of the building to 5. It'd be a very simple valve, like a little screw valve. The pulse is what causes the engine to start running. It's for the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is a freestanding, it's a crystal room because it's rose quartz granite. It's freestanding from the exterior limestone walls, and it's tuned. So when you cause that to resonate, the whole King's chamber would resonate all by itself, and that would cause the machine to start running. This is technology that has been proven, that's been on this planet since before the end of the Ice Age. All the archaeological evidence points to that is pre-flood, and that was 12,000 years ago was the flood. Energized water would increase the health of the plants, which we eat, increase our health, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The size of the pyramid itself would do it to a scale which would affect essentially all the fish, the animals, the people, the plants of that whole area or whole part of the globe for free, forever. Nothing required other than let the water flow.
Okay, so you could see how this giant water hammer is going to be hammering at a piezoelectric crystal, as Jared says. It's going to be charging up a capacitor. What is the Great Pyramid? You know?
And there was also like
everything was huge.
But like the reptiles, like the Ultrasaurus, the supposed like T-Rexes, like the massive of massives. There, and that's the Jurassic, and they claim it's like in the millions, and they claim like there's a couple major catastrophe wipeouts since that time. And then if you also in parallel though put that with the idea of like the different indigenous beliefs and systems, like the Hopi, and there's a whole bunch of them that have the same essential ages.
Yeah, they
of
talk
the
about
sun.
the transformer
like,
stones as well.
But with the ages of the sun, and that if you have the Younger Dryas event as the most recent one, and that there was megafauna of like giant beavers, giant sloths, giant compared to now, giant mastodons and giant mammoths and elephants and rhinos, and it was like one step smaller in between the titans or like the super giants or the demigods or whatever, on that original turtle's back that you got like the troll, whatever, going down, but it's like the different ages of the sun. And then each time it's a fractal of a fractal of a fractal, smaller, experiencing it itself. Potentially, and it's crazy what it all turns out to be, and that like
Well, the book of
there has to
book
be
of
One thing that I
as
find
well this
absolutely
matrix,
hilarious about it.
this simulation sort of thing, connecting all of these different fractal dimensions and sizes, and that it's interesting how whether it's Slavic or Greek, or it's at least these what we associate as Western culture, but really it's just the indigenous of the Greek, of the Slavic, of the European people, that actually matching the same stories as the Aztec, the Mayans, the shamans everywhere, that there were giants in those days, just like the Bible says, and like that matches in with one major cycle reset ago, and that all the wisdom keepers throughout the world tell of the original cycles, the first cycle or the second cycle of the turtle and the Titans, and then the Titans destroying or fighting with the demigods or the whatever, like one thing smaller and smaller, and it's quite interesting. Quite interesting. That's my rant. I'll let you go.
Well, I was just thinking of the Book of Enoch, which talks about the Titans as well, and it actually gives a dimension for them. It describes them as being 3,000 ells, which equates to roughly a mile tall. And so that's right in alignment with the mountain here that I examined. It's 753 meters in height, but if you look at it, it's the elephant is lying down on its stomach, so it's not standing. It's laying flat. So if it was standing, it would be exactly the same size. And I didn't know anything about the Book of Enoch until I started making videos on the subject, and all of a sudden I had these mythical confirmations of what I was finding empirically as I went through and started to look at this point by point. And then someone mentioned Troll. I imagine you guys have seen the movie, right? The recent one.
Yes.
And that kind of ties back into the whole Caesar thing, because the trolls hated the bells, right? And they wanted to destroy the Christians because the Christians were using the bells. And so I wonder, you were talking when I first started asking questions, you were talking about
that
petrification through sound, slowing things down. I do it, basically just.
Shout out John Suck. Thank you for the $3 super chat. Sorry, I can't hear anything.
Hey,
now.
you're showing a picture of a church here. There's just something really interesting that happened
Josh,
with the
I desperately want your opinion on this. And
the rose windows.
Seismic.
Oh, definitely.
Thinking earthquake,
liquefaction on that. Yeah, this is a perfect example right here of what everybody is talking about, that they're all over the world. When you're finding structures like this and you've got an entrance below an entrance below an entrance, and it's 3 or 4 layers tall, but there's no evidence of a previous civilization there before. Obviously there's evidence of a previous civilization there before that's been covered up, and new entrances have been built higher up. Now, I would think that maybe if the earth goes into some kind of vibratory thing, I don't know what you would call it, a very low frequency, ultra low frequency vibration, just like a large earthquake, but bigger, that it would cause the water table to come up and mix with the current clays and so forth and come through the limestone. And as you know, as Paul Cook has shown with the geopolymer, when you pass water through limestone and then it goes into a clay, guess what? The clay and the limestone harden into a geopolymer, and it's one of the strongest things known to man. Turns into rock. The University of Texas just created geopolymer as a sufficient substitute for concrete now. Go figure, out of the kaolin clay and out of the sodium carbonate and water glass. Just the same shit that Paul Cook's using.
And suddenly there's no need to invoke ancient aliens or anti-gravity technology to explain the building of the megalithic structures around the world.
Now, this church thing, this is just the mind blower. You guys remember Notre Dame burned down, right? Now, 1 week before Notre Dame burned down, there was this Russian guy who used to upload Tartarian mud flood videos, and he'd dissect like all kinds of structures in Russia and all over the place. I don't know what happened to his channel, or if he disappeared or whatever. Anyway,
Philip Turgenin?
It might be him. That might be him.
He's the one who coined the term mud flood.
Okay.
Or Global Vision or Philip Druzine.
Okay, it was a Russian fellow, and he was showing the church steeples like this, and he showed the inside, and he used Notre Dame as an example of the cavities of the. See those nodes on the outside? Kind of looks like coronavirus. And anyway, the nodes on the outside, on the inside, on the inside are the cavities, and the cavities are matching. He found to be similar to a cavity that would be in a magnetron for a microwave, and that you put the electricity in, and it goes through the cavities, and it vibrates, and out comes the radio wave. And then he saw that he said in the video, he was showing that the cymatic pattern that the church glass has, and the leaded glass, the colors of the glass matter because of the passing through them. Likewise, coming in is going to create a resonance in the church that's going to go up through the steeple and out through the top, which is loaded with mercury. And mercury becomes highly activated radio waves, in case you didn't know, and that can generate its own electricity in its own right if you put a large amount of
antennas.
An antenna, basically, a mercury antenna. And
well, also that shape is similar.
I gotta say, what is going on with red mercury and its vampirism? Just saying. I'm just saying.
Similar to the dragonfly and bee wings, right?
He put that video out. He put that video out 1 week before Notre Dame burned down. The steeple. And he used the steeple as the example of the cavities that were inside that would use to generate the wave. And then the thing burns down.
That's suspicious.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and find his video. It'd probably be buried, but I know it was about a week before, because I remember watching the thing on Notre Dame, and the next thing you know, and then to seal the deal that something's up with Notre Dame and the church steeple thing, the night before Notre Dame burned down, here in St. Louis, Missouri, at the St. Louis King of France Cathedral, below the St. Louis Dam Arch, a sudden wind kicked up and blew the roof off the church, and it was the original intact roof for the last 250 years.
Oopsie.
The night before Notre Dame burned down, St. Louis King of France, and King of France, obviously Louis, King Louis, France, Paris, Notre Dame, St. Louis, here in Missouri. So somebody kicked on, and then they built the arch over that cathedral, by the way. The arch is built directly over that cathedral, where that cathedral is in the middle.
That looks like a pyramid.
So it's basically a destruction of Antiquitech, and people's attention are being drawn to things, and then they're like, okay, we got to make this disappear.
See what he's holding there?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's in the bag?
Something I noticed about this, guys. If you go back through history and you look at all the old pictures, all the way back to Nebuchadnezzar himself, they're all holding one thing in their hand like that, and in the other hand they're holding a rod, and they're all wearing some kind of headdress with something over their third eye, or over the top of their pineal, or right over the top, right? Anyway, if you go to Egypt, it's an ankh that they're holding, or an ankh. Right? The Egyptian god is holding the ankh, or the ankh, in their hand, and in the other hand they're holding the staff. And the kings and queens of Europe are holding the rod and the orb in the other hand. And the orb is two spheres. It's a sphere inside of a sphere. You can shake it. It makes a bell sound. Did you know that the orb that the king and queen holds, when you shake it, it makes a sound like a church bell. It goes ding, 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 because it's a sphere inside of the orb. And so, yeah, it makes a church bell sound when they ring the orb.
Or no, that is the Forbidden City clubhouse. That is a macro. This is a macro chip, and that is the Forbidden City of Peking, aka Beijing, China. This is water around like that. Like this is it's easy, but on macro sides. Like now we do the micro, put it into your smartphone, your computer. This was on the terraformed level of the largest size, but using the same material, the megalithic materials of those crystals, those minerals, those like the granite, the quartz, and then these waters, and then the metals in the different domes, like the resonator geometries of it. They're magnifiers for sound, for these different electromagnetic energies, focusing them down, and that these antenna array that they have on top with in between the building that is elevated up in these spires, that then has your gold, silver, copper, metal domes that are those resonator ones, that then on top of that have these antennas that are actually quite advanced antennas. This one's always quite fascinating. I believe that's in St. Petersburg or Moscow, maybe Paris. I don't know. There's just so many that are several stories upon stories below. Example of what I was rambling about that I wanted to show. I'll find in a second. In the meantime,
Mystaphysics. That's the first time I've seen that word. That's interesting.
And mathemagic and mystaphysics.
Well, mathemagic. I learned that one. I learned that one from Donald Duck.
If you took that star and you folded it origami, it would form into a princess cut diamond. That's weird.
And like, look at these royal crowns or headpieces where this was all gold and then crystals. Crystals can be used and are used as what the heck is it, like in
amplifiers.
radios and amplifiers. Thank you. And like so much more
the
now.
piezoelectric effect.
You got it. And then that you have these layered levels of these toroid connectors, the dielectric, and then the insulators and the alternating levels of them. These are like essentially super designed, like high tech, purposely built resonating energy amplifying devices. Like, look at this on top. Earlier we saw that plasma, right? You had it going up and then both ways.
You know what those shapes are? You know what those
going
plus
down
shapes
and
are?
down and down
I hate to interrupt, but
these royals would rain on
that's a phased array radar shape.
top of these
Plus shapes are a phased
different
array
spots.
radar shape.
Say that again, Dutch.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying I hated to interrupt because it totally fits in with everything he's saying. Those plus shapes right there, three-dimensionally, you'll see those same things on what's called an AMISR, an Advanced Modular Incoherent Scatter Radar. If you search it, you'll find the same damn shape. And it's a plus shape that's also used on the top of a harp antenna. Think of the harp. Think of harp with its big antenna with the big plus coming off the top of it. It's a multi-directional. It covers 180 degrees all around you. It's
like,
yeah, that is frequency transmission, guys.
Well, I was thinking of Viktor Grebennikov, and his work. Like he was doing these levitation, and apparently using beetles' wings. And if you look at them under a microscope, they're similar to dragonfly and bees. And they're these little cone shapes, and that ties into the guy with the coral castle that was levitating stuff. And people who kind of saw him doing things, they said they saw him with these cone shapes in his hand. So this is some kind of a concentration of energy that allows you to, to manipulate our physical reality in ways we're taught are impossible.
Yeah, they always got the ankh in one hand and the rod in the other.
What do those represent?
Oh, Stellium, what do you think of this one?
Oh, yeah.
Is this legit or is this fun?
I don't know. I've seen pictures, actual like higher quality photographs of it. It looks like people have placed rocks so that it has teeth, and I don't know. It's so hard to say. And this is the thing that's so frustrating with the whole Titan research, is that there's nobody doing Titan research. Like I'm the only one that's ever done a forensic analysis of a Titan.
Hey,
and actually,
Bernie. I'm sorry to interrupt, Stellium.
You two, we gotta bring you two together.
Tellinger has done something similar. What has he done? I mean, I know he's done
Oh
great
yeah,
work. I love Michael Tellinger. I just don't.
he's got a. I'm pretty sure like he spent the last couple of years in South Africa dedicated to opening up like a
Okay, so I'm going to end the broadcast. We were having Wi-Fi problems, but this is only recording for later. So
Good
good
call,
night.
Frankie. Good time to end it. I was just finishing up creating the other event, which I will be. Everybody should be seeing popping up here any minute now. And thank you for this epic. You did a great job. It was great success, man.
Thanks, man. I really hope I did. You
So
want to keep playing that? What do you want me to do something different? No. Bernie? There's a time lag. Can you hear me, Bernie? Oh, I might have lost touch with you.
see you here in 2 minutes live. Real Science episode
I can barely hear you.
32.
I'm sorry, Bernie. I can't hear you. I wish I could.